Welcome to Black History in Upstate New York. This program was produced by Victoria Basulto in conjunction with the National Abolition Hall of Fame and Museum and funded by the Catherine W. Davis Projects for Peace Fellowship awarded through Colgate University. Black History in Upstate New York will provide a combination of bite-sized informational videos and longer presentations by scholars on historical figures and places that emphasize the crucial role Black Americans have played in the history of Upstate New York. The National Abolition Hall of Fame and Museum honors anti-slavery abolitionists, their work to end slavery, and the legacy of that struggle, and strives to complete the second and ongoing abolition, the moral conviction to end racism. The Hall of Fame and Museum's contact information is available on the screen. Hello, and once again, welcome to Black History in Upstate New York. My name is Victoria Basulto, and today I will be introducing the remarkable Harriet Tubman. This video is meant as an introduction to tomorrow's presentation by Kate Clifford Larson, who will take a deep dive into the life of Harriet Tubman and her time in Auburn, New York. So, Harriet Tubman was born Araminta Ross in March 1822 in Dorchester County, Maryland. Her childhood was filled with tribulations, as she was born into slavery and experienced firsthand the physical and the emotional cruelties of the institution. She experienced the traumas of family separation and physical abuse that could leave internal and external scars. Harriet knew the danger of having a family member separated by being sold to another slave owner or of being sold herself. 3 of her sisters, in fact, had been sold away from their family and were never reunited. She also experienced the physical abuses a slave master could freely inflict on an enslaved person because they were considered property. She sustained a lifelong injury when she was on an errand, she was hit by a metal weight thrown by an overseer. Though not intended to hit her, the incident demonstrates the physical abuse normalized in slavery, and it caused Tubman a traumatic head injury, which affected her with various maladies like seizures throughout her life. These experiences, no doubt, would influence her staunch opposition to slavery and fervent desire for her own freedom and for the liberation of others. In 1844, Tubman married John Tubman, a free Black man living in Maryland. Their significantly different statuses, with Harriet Tubman being an enslaved woman and John Tubman being a free man, put the future of their family under threat. This was because the institution of slavery dictated a child's status was determined by their mother. So, a child that was born from an enslaved woman would be enslaved regardless of their father's status. In that same note, a child born to a free woman would be free even if the father was enslaved. This meant that any children born from the Tubman's marriage would be born into slavery. However, it was also possible for a free family member to purchase the freedom of an enslaved one, so this might have been the Tubman's plan, as John Tubman could save enough money to eventually buy Harriet Tubman's freedom. However, if this had been the plan, the events of 1849 and Harriet Tubman's life put it at risk. After becoming ill, Harriet Tubman's master, Edward Brodess, tried to sell her. He struggled to find a buyer because of her ill health, but Tubman became aware of the danger that she was in. For many enslaved people, being sold brought the danger of being sold into the Deep South, which often meant harsher conditions and a higher likelihood of death, as well as never being able to see their family again. Soon after, Edward Brodess died, but this was not the end of Tubman's worries. The death of Edward Brodess increased the likelihood that she would be sold in addition to the rest of her family. Tubman decided that she would not wait for Edward Brodess's widow, Eliza Brodess, to decide her fate. She is quoted as having said, quote, "There was one of 2 things I had a right to, liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other," end quote. Her first attempt did not succeed. Tubman made the attempt with 2 of her brothers, Ben and Harry. 2 weeks later, Eliza Brodess posted a reward letter for the 3 runaways in the Cambridge Democrat. However, her brothers had second thoughts of running away and decided to return. This forced Tubman to return as well. Her second attempt, this time alone, was successful. In this attempt, Tubman made use of the Underground Railroad, a network of enslaved and free Black people and Black and white abolitionists. She likely did most of her traveling at night, guided by the North Star, in order to avoid any slave catchers and hunters who might have been after her or looking for runaways to collect rewards from. This meant she would have to hide in woods, marshes, or in the houses of Underground Railroad conductors until she could continue onward at night. Upon crossing into Pennsylvania, a free state, Tubman said, "When I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven." But for Tubman, her own freedom was not enough. She would soon return to Maryland to rescue the rest of her family, as she felt the desire that they should be free as well. Her first trip back was in 1850, when she returned to Maryland to help her niece Keziah and Keziah's 2 children to escape to Philadelphia. The success of her trips back and forth from Maryland earned her the nickname Moses. In total, she made 13 trips and helped 70 people escape into freedom. While most of these were her family, she also helped others escape by providing specific instructions on how to get to the north. Most of Tubman's family had settled in St. Catharines, Ontario, but many would eventually move back to the United States to live with her in Auburn, New York. Harriet Tubman bought her home and property in Auburn, New York in 1859 from the abolitionist and U.S. Senator William H. Seward. Auburn was a good place for Tubman to settle because it was inhabited by a community known for its anti-slavery activism and many prominent abolitionists. This made it safe for her and her family to live in Auburn, even though the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 continued to make it dangerous for any Black person, but especially for a former fugitive slave, to live in the U.S., where they could technically at any moment be arrested and sold into slavery in the South or returned to their former master. Tubman would go on to thrive in Auburn despite continued financial difficulties. She had made friends there like the Seward family, the Wright family, and other abolitionist families like the Smiths in Peterborough, not too far away. Her presence is still evident when one travels to Auburn, with murals and statues dedicated to her legacy. You can visit her final resting place at the Fort Hill Cemetery in Auburn, where she was buried after she died of pneumonia in 1913, surrounded by the very family she helped to freedom. She was also buried with semi-military honors for her work with the Union Army during the Civil War as a scout, spy, and nurse, of which we will learn more about this during tomorrow's presentation. If you visit Auburn today, you can visit the Harriet Tubman National Historic Park, which was authorized by the 2015 National Defense Authorization Act, signed into law by President Obama, December 19, 2014. The park was officially established on January 10, 2017, and consists of 3 properties: the Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged, which Tubman established to care for the old and poor of her community, the Harriet Tubman Residence, which is Tubman's homestead, and the Thompson AME Zion Church. Harriet Tubman not only lived a life of valor and courage, but was also a person of many firsts. She became the first American woman to lead an armed expedition on her raid on the Combahee Ferry during the Civil War. She joined 17 other women with her induction into the U.S. Military Intelligence Corps Hall of Fame in 2021, and she is set to become the first Black American on U.S. federally sanctioned paper currency when she replaces President Andrew Jackson on the front of the $20 bill. Today, Harriet Tubman is a well-known American hero. We learned about her in grade school, and she serves as a continual reminder of the courage and valor with which many Black Americans conducted their lives in the midst of the horrors of slavery. But most importantly, Tubman's story is dynamic, and so much more than just her escape from slavery. Her time in Upstate saw her become involved and form intimate relationships with other Black Americans and white Americans who operated in the abolitionist movement and the women's rights movement. Join us tomorrow for a presentation by Kate Clifford Larson, the writer of the biography Bound for the Promised Land, Harriet Tubman, Portrait of an American Hero. She will discuss Tubman's life in Auburn and the many people she knew, as well as the many accomplishments of her life. Thank you.